Hey everyone, this is Mukesh Otwani once again from learn-innovation.com. Today in this lecture, we are going to talk about how you can write your first script with Cypress and how you can execute the same. So I'm sure you must have gone through the previous videos where we have discussed what is Cypress, how to download, install, and a quick tour. So I'm sure you must be familiar now with the Cypress folder structure and the different files we have. Okay, because we are going to use couple of files, and if you are familiar, then it will be added advantage for you. So if you have not gone through the previous videos, I will give you the link in the description. Please go ahead and watch that. It will help you a lot. Okay, so this is the test runner which I already have. Okay, as you can see, we have two folders here which is getting started. So if I talk about this integration, we have getting started and this advanced example. As of now, I'm going to create a new folder, and here I will write test scripts. Okay, and here we will maintain all our Cypress scripts, and I don't want this, I don't want to confuse you, so let's start everything from the scratch. If you want, you can delete them so that you will have only one test scripts folder, okay, where we will be writing our Cypress scripts. So now if you come back here, you can see we don't have anything now, all the files has been gone. So let's create a new file. Okay, I'm going to create, this is sample. Okay, you can give spec.js file, and now you can continue. So as we have seen in the past that it uses Mocha as a framework, right? So now we are going to use something called describe. So I'm using one of the plugin which is giving me this auto suggestions, but if you don't want, you can simply write describe. Okay, it's a block. So it will take the first name is, this is basically a complete test suite. Inside the describe, you can have multiple test cases as well, which will come under it block. So this I will say, this is my first test suite, and now it will simply ask you function. Okay, now you can use normal function, you can use arrow function as well. So let me just write function. I will show you both the ways so that you should not get confused when you see the latest code and with arrow function. So now this describe block can have multiple test cases. This is just one test suite for us. Now I can write it block. Okay, so again you can see this is a Cypress snippet that I'm getting, but let's use a normal one. I will say this is my first I will say, okay, let's say first test. Again it will take function, so just type function. Again guys, this we have seen in the JavaScript series. Okay, so this is a spelling mistake, yeah, T-I-O-N. Now I can write multiple test cases. The moment I press Ctrl S, it is getting auto formatted. This is my first test. In the same way, I can have multiple test cases here. The moment I save this file, you can see the same folder is getting created here. So you can see test script and sample. The moment I run this, it should run these two test cases. Now let's do some test activities. Forget about Cypress as of now. Okay, we will be using CY object, which is a global object, but for the time being, just write expect. Okay, so this expect is coming from child library. I'm going to write a small assertion here, expect true. Okay, and it has to be equal true. So this is actually guys actual versus expected. If both is matching, it will pass, otherwise it will fail. So what we are saying, expect true, and it has to be equal to true. In this case, obviously this will pass. So in the second test, I will just rename this as second test, and let me call this as fail. So what I will do, I will write the same thing, but expect true, and it has to equal to false. So obviously this is going to fail and this is going to pass. Now come back, just click here, and it should run, right? So right now it's opening in the browser, because by default, if you see, the Chrome was selected and it is running on the browser. First we are checking in the basic test is working fine or not. If that is working, then we'll start using this CY visit. Okay, so first of all, this is, you can see the first test suite, and this is the exact same name that we have given, first test suite. Then we have two test cases, right? This is one test case, this is second test case. So if you come back here, so this is my first test, which is success, and the second test got failed. Same you can see here, this is the first test success and first test failure. The moment you open this, you can see this is your test body. It says assert true, expected true to equal false, and it is giving the exact number where we are getting issue. Now this is what we are expecting, but as we have seen, Cypress is basically for test automation for your web application. So let's start using CY object. So this CY object is a global object for Cypress. So all the commands that you will be writing will be used, I will say that will be working with CY object. So let's do that. If you want, you can continue from this, or else you can just create a separate file and you can say first cypress.spec.js file, and now again you can write describe. See, this is auto suggestions I'm getting, and now you can see this is something called arrow function. So if you're not familiar with arrow function, no worry, you can just write function, and inside this you can write it block. Okay, so it, and again I will say this is, I will say orange HRM test suite. So we will be using one of the application called orange HRM, and I will be writing couple of tests here. So this test name I will give verify URL, and if you don't want this, just write function. Okay, open and close. Now let's start using this CY object. So the moment I say CY dot, now you can see I'm not getting all these options, right? Although if I just write CY dot visit and if I pass the URL, it should start, but I would highly recommend you that you should implement something called auto suggestion or code completion. For that I have to show you Cypress official website. Okay, so this is the official site, docs.cypress.io, and now if you come to tooling section, you will see something called IDE integration. This is very handy. Even if you don't use this, it's fine, but I would highly recommend you to enable this intelligent code completion, because it will give you a lot of information, that what is the documentation, what parameter it accepts, what is the return type, and so on. So now you can see the moment you don't have this enabled, it will not show you auto suggestion. Exactly in our case, the moment I type CY dot, I'm blank what to use, because if you're new to Cypress, then you should know, right, what command to use for what. Like if I have to open a URL, if I have to find an element, or if I have to verify something, either I can go to the documentation one by one and see what command I have to use, or else enable this code completion. So the first option, as you can see in your file, you just need to use this // and you have to use a reference type Cypress, and this code completion will be enabled for you. I will give you this in the description of this video so that you can copy paste. Just type here and save your file. That's all you need to do. And the moment you type CY dot, now you can see I'm getting all these options. I'm getting this blur, clear cookies, click, double click, debug, and all these options. So the first thing that you need to understand is the visit method. Okay, as the name says visit, now you can pass any URL and it will open that particular URL in the selected browser. So the URL to visit, if relative, use base URL. What is this? I will show you in the next example. And they have also given you the link that if you want to explore what exactly this widget does, you can see the complete examples. Okay, how to use, what arguments you can pass, all the details you will get through this link. Okay, so once we move it, I will show you, but for the time being, you can see if you just use the base URL, you can just use 1// if you have given the complete base URL, and if you want to navigate to the sub URLs, you can pass here. You can pass the full URL. You can also pass URL along with methods and so on. The multiple options that you can pass, as you can see here. When you move towards API testing, you can pass the body, headers, authentication, and so many other things. And if you want to provide the timeouts also, you can pass the timeouts. So just to get started, I'm going to use one of the application, which is Orange HRM, and we'll try to verify the URL at least. So the application which I'm going to use is Orange HRM. So just let me use Orange HRM and use this. Now this one I will close because now I want to start a new test. This is my test, and if I come back here, this is my first Cypress spec.js. By default browser is Chrome 97. Click on it, and this time the test should run. It should open basically Orange HRM, and you can see it is visiting Orange HRM. Okay, so it will wait until the full page load is not completed, and you can see this has been completed, and this is the step which got completed. So basically it will keep on waiting until this page is not getting loaded. Okay, so what if I make some mistake here? So for example, if I make 123 some random URL which I don't know, it could be wrong URL or it could be the valid URL, but it is not loading. The moment I save this file using Ctrl S, automatically you will notice the test will resume. Okay, and you can see it says failed to load. So it says cy.visual failed trying to load. We attempt to make the URL, but it did not load, and finally it failed. So what I want to explain here, that by default Cypress have a assertion here that until your response is not coming as 200 or in success category, it will wait, but if that particular application is down or does not exist, it will fail immediately. Okay, so let me remove this 123. Now as the test says, we have to verify the URL. Now the question comes, how do we verify the URL in Cypress? So again, you should understand that commands which Cypress offers in order to capture the URL. So if I say ci.url, okay, so just put mouse over on this. It says get the current URL of the page that is currently active. So in our case, it will return the URL, which is basically this URL. Now I need to verify whether this URL, let's say, includes Orange HRM or not. This is one of my assertion, and we have seen, right, and in the test automation, these are our basic checks: verify the URL, verify the title. So that's what we are doing. We are going to verify URL. So I'm going to use something called should, and now if you see this, it says assert the target type is equal to the given string type, and basically it's coming from the child library. So you can see the documentation as well if you want to refer. So you can wrap with Cypress objects like this. First you get the element or get the title URL, then you have to apply should. So I'm going to check include. As you can see, I'm getting include all key, include any key. I'm just going to check that this URL which Cypress will capture, does it include Orange HRM live? If yes, then the test will pass. Okay, so you can see automatically it has executed, but let me make some changes again. Save this file, come back here, and you can see this is one of the visit command. Then we are using one assert. So it says expected was to include orange HRM, and yes, it passed. But if I type Mukesh here, let's say I'm expecting Mukesh, come back here, it is checking, does this URL includes Mukesh? And it says no, it failed. But it did not fail immediately, guys. It failed after 4000 milliseconds, which is basically after 4 seconds. How it is coming? If you go back to my previous videos, we discussed the default timeout. Can you see this? Default command timeout is 4000 milliseconds. It means it waits for 4 seconds. If it doesn't load, then it fails. So I'll go back and let me check only this part. So this is my first assertion, that it should have orange HRM. This is known as partial verifying. You're verifying a URL partially. But if you want to verify that URL should be exactly like this, then you can have cy dot URL and use should. Now if you want exactly same, you can use something called EQ. Okay, you can see I'm getting auto suggestions. So EQ says the URL should be equal to this. If something is not matching, it will fail. So again, focus here. The moment I save this, test should start. And now we have two assertions. One assertion was for include, one assertion was for equals. So it says first assertion was to include, second was to equals, both are equal. So two assertion is working. Perfect. Now let me write one more test, and that test will verify the title. So I hope this is clear. Using cy.visit, you can pass any URL which you want to test, and then you can capture the URL and you can verify the same. In case you want to know that what exactly this URL does, come back to this API section and search for URL. You can see this, right? Click on this, and they have given what exactly it does, what you can use as an alias, what is the syntax, what is the correct usage, and how you can verify the same. So you can see I have used the exactly same thing like should and equals to. So whenever you need any additional information, come back to documentation and follow the same. I will show you a couple of additional things as well. So this is using like this for verifying URL. Second test is verifying title. Now here I will visit that URL again, but this time I will check title. So cy.title. Okay. And now again I can use something called should. So title should contain this. So instead of contains, we have to use something called include here. It should include what? Let's go back to URL. You can see this is my title, right? Orange HRM. I will simply check HRM is added or not. That's what my check says. So I will check, does it include HRM? This is my first assertion. This is partial. Again, if I want the exact same image, I can say cy.title. Again, should and double quotes. You can see all this option. Let's use the equal one, and I want the exact same one. So this will have orange HRM. Save this file, come back, and here the test should run. So the first test completed, verifying URL and verify title. Just verify this part. Verify URL. This is done. The moment you open, it has 3 commands: visit, URL with assert, URL with assert. Second test, which was cy.visit, title and title with includes, title with equals. Perfect. So I hope you got how Cypress is working. Now what about finding the web element? So we got the title, URL, but how we can interact with the web element? That's what we need to see. So the moment I right click inspect, okay, now you can see this particular input box have one attribute called name, attribute called ID, one attribute called type. Now Cypress works on CSS. So basically it will accept the CSS selector and it will continue. You can use XPath, but with the help of plugin. There's no direct support of XPath here. But once we move ahead, we will be using one of the Cypress plugin, which will allow us to work with XPath as well. So now if you are familiar, then it's good that whenever you work with ID, we use hash, right? So you can see for this particular web element, I have ID. So now come back here and let's create one more test. This test says login and logout. And again, I will use function, pair of parentheses. It should be function. And now I can use something called cy.visit. Let's use this URL. Okay, once it is done, now I need to find that element. So I will use something called cy.get. Okay, now what this get does, it says get one or more DOM elements by node, a name, input button, etc. They have given the documentation that how you can use the same. Okay, the moment you open this, you'll get the detailed documentation of this, that you can directly pass the selector, you can pass the alias, selector with options, alias with options, and this is how we have to use it. So I have taken the ID. So for ID I will use hash and I will give the ID that we have copied. What was the ID here? ID is txt username. So guys, you can take any application of your choice which you want to automate. I'm taking any application because the concept will remain same, only the locator will change. Okay, so I'm taking ID this time. So this particular get method will find that element. Now I can perform operation. So this is basically a input box. So I will set type and I can type whatever I wish. Here the username is admin. Okay, even after typing, if I want to verify whether this admin has been entered correctly or not, I can directly perform assertion over here and I can say have dot value, and what value it should have, admin. So you can see this is called chaining here. So first we are trying to find element, then we are performing operation on that, and then we are also verifying that is admin entered correctly or not. So what does it mean? The moment you enter something, let's say I'm typing admin here. Okay, so this is actually a value over here. Okay, so you can see name ID, but whatever we type, it comes under value. So that's what we are trying to verify here, that after typing admin, verify the value is equal to admin or not. Let me save this file, come back, and let's watch. First it will verify the URL, then it's verifying the title, done, and here we go. Can you see it typed admin? If I open this, it says first you have visited the command. Now pay attention guys, the moment I put get, put mouse over on the get, and you can see on the right hand side it is highlighting that it was able to find this text box. The moment I put mouse over on type, you can see the red dot here, right? It says it typed admin. And if you notice on the downside, DOM snapshot before and after, before this, after this, before this, after this, and it will keep on blinking. Then this is your assert that expected was to have admin, and we have an admin. If you want to fail it, let's say I'm expecting that after typing value should be Mukesh, and obviously it will fail. Now this is a very interesting point I want to show you, that suppose every time I don't want to run these two test cases, you can type here X as of now. Okay, so when you say XIT, now it's not going to execute this. Okay, same thing for this, only it will execute the final test case. So let me save this file, and it is only running now login and logout test. So again, if you notice, the first two test cases, they are not executed at all, right? They are coming under skip category. It is not even getting executed. Third test case, it executed. So get is working fine, type is working fine, but the assertion says we are expecting Mukesh, right? But it says expected to have value Mukesh, but the value was admin and it failed. So this is optional but good to have. You can verify on the fly whether whatever you're typing, whether it's correct or not. Let's move on to the next element, which is this is your password. Again, for password I can use ID, but let me use this name this time. And we know, right, how to work with CSS. I'm going to write, this is the input box, bracket, name is attribute, and the value is equal to txt password, right? This is highlighting. So what does it mean? First of all, I'm going to get this particular password field. Again, if you're new to CSS, I will give you one link in the description. Please go ahead and watch. It's around 30 minutes video, but you'll get so many things about CSS selector. And if you're working with Cypress, you should know CSS. Fine. Now again, I need to type. I want to type admin 123. This is the password that we have. After that, I want to click on login. Okay. Now this login, as you can see, it has an ID, it has a name, it has a type, it has a class as well. Now let me use this class, and for class we use dot. If it is unique, it will match and it will perform operation. Okay, so I will use cy dot get, and I will use something called dot class name, which is button. It will find, and I will say dot click. You can see very easy name, type click, type click. So 2 times type, 1 times click. And what I want, that after entering correct username password, okay, seems some application issue, because even when I do valid credentials, it is not moving forward. So what we can do, let's rename this test to only login, because there's some application issue, but we will be able to perform these activities. It will visit, it will type, it will enter username password, and it will click. Now the moment I save this, let's see. And here we go. If you see, 2 tests skipped. Just visit, this is a username, it typed, this is assertion, it took the find like password field, as you can see highlighted, type, you can see again this red dot, then it found the button, then did the click, and it will show you the exact where it is clicking, and finally you can see these are some network calls. At this moment, okay, since we are not getting proper next page, otherwise we could have continued with logout as well, but this is what it is doing now. So instead of validating the correct credential, let's do invalid credentials. So anyways, the even correct credentials are not working, so let me make it 1 2 3 4. So after this, I'm expecting a message. What is the message I'm expecting? Invalid credentials, right? Let's find out. So this is the text which I'm expecting, and this is the ID it has. So come back here and let's say cy.get. We have ID, right? So I will use hash. This is the ID. This particular element should contains a text, right? What text it should contain? Invalid credentials. So I can again write dot should, and I can write again have dot text. And what text we are expecting? Invalid credentials. So it will go ahead and find this particular web element, and it will check, is this element have a text called invalid credential? If yes, it will pass, otherwise it will fail. And let me finally run this. I will remove X from here. I will remove X from here. So basically 3 tests will run from this test suite and everything will be running. So the moment you save, come back, sit back and relax. Yes, done. Now it will do the login part, and yes, come back to login, and this is the final assertion. We've captured this message, and this is the assertion that we are getting. Beautiful way of working with Cypress. I hope it is clear to everyone. Now I want to show you a very interesting concept, that if this URL, okay, is getting changed, okay, maybe you are moving your resources, maybe you are testing on a different environment now, so obviously this URL you have to change in your test. But right now I have hard coded this URL in all the 3 test cases. So if something changes or some change in the URL, I have to update all my 3 test cases. So now Cypress says that you can store this into a base URL, and you can use the same here. For this, if you visit, you can see in the settings we have something called base URL equal to null as of now, but we can override this. So you can copy this, okay, and we have discussed this right in the a quick tour guide, that you can set this using cypress.json file as well. So come back, this comes by default, and this is blank at this moment. So just come back here. So this is my base URL, and base URL I want this. So I will do Control X and paste it here. Again, this is a string, so I will put in double quotes, paste it here. That's what. And now you can put either blank, and if you just remove this slash from here, just put visit slash here, slash here, slash here. So what does it mean? Now it's going to take this base URL from cypress.json file, not only this this spec file, all the spec file. Whenever you need the URL, now you can take advantage of base URL. If you want to override, you can pass in the visit, but if you don't want to pass, it will take from the cypress.json file. That's the beauty of Cypress. And the moment you save these files, okay, we have to execute that browser I have closed. Okay, just execute this. It will run the same. It is not going to change its behavior, but instead of hard coding in the visit argument, we are taking from the base URL, which is coming from config.json file. And here we go. Second test is done, third is also done. Perfect. So you can see visit, it is only giving a slash. Okay, I hope it is clear now. I hope you must have enjoyed this. Now I want to highlight one more part related to auto suggestion. See, If you want auto suggestion in each and every spec file, you can go ahead and add these references, which is okay. But again, don't you think it's repeated again each and every file? You have to do the copy paste. So we have a quick solution for this. Again, if you go back to guide section, come to tooling, go to ID integration and intelligent code completion. The first way anyways I showed you. The second way is you can create a JS config file. Okay, instead of adding / directive to each JavaScript file, some ID like Visual Code understand a common JSON JS config.json file, which you have to put in a root of your project. It means in the base folder we need to keep one file, and we just need to add this content. So just create a new file called JS config.json. Okay, this has to be in the root folder, so I will just drag here and keep in the root. Okay, along with this, and copy this. That's all you need to do. Now automatically whatever spec file you will be creating here, you will get auto suggestion. Now even if I create one more, let's say second cypress.spec.js, if I write describe it, and if I use now cy dot, you can see I'm getting auto suggestion. Why? Because now we have added a js config.json file. So that is good option to include auto suggestion throughout your project. Now before we end this video, I want to quickly highlight that in case if you don't want to use this function, you can go with the arrow functions as well. Okay, because that is the quick way to do this. If I create one more test, let's say login, so you can see instead of writing function, you can just write pair of parentheses and then just arrow. So if you want to replace this, remove this function and just write one arrow. Okay, and you can write here. This is arrow function, arrow function. Okay, and this is blank. So that's all from my side. In case if you like this video, if it helped you in any manner, then please support this channel, subscribe this channel right away. If your friends and colleagues are working with Cypress or they want to explore Cypress, do share this video with them. And if you face any issue or challenges, let me know in the comment section, and I will see you in the next video. Have a nice day. Bye bye.